Balking at ammo prices? Sometimes it pays to think smaller than 5.56. Got my new AR-9 build on the table along with a complete lower from KE Arms, a new recoil reducing buffer setup from KAK Industries, and a new flash hider from Breek Arms on this week's Gear Grind. Starting with the heart of this build, the KE Arms KE-9 Ambidextrous Billet Lower receiver. Fit. Kind of an essential thing for most AR-9 builds these days. This one takes Glock mags. KE Arms recommends the Magpul GL9 mags for this, which you can get in up to 27 round capacity. Grab a link to Randy's full Magpul PMag video below. Unlike the KE Arms monolithic polymer lowers I hit on in my first Gear Grind, linked below that one too, this lower can take any trigger group and safety you want. It comes with an Ambi safety as well as an SLT1 single stage trigger. I've talked about this one before. It's an absolutely excellent trigger, so not changing that. This lower doesn't have a last round bolt hold open, but you can get that capability with, say, an Aero Precision EPC9 upper, which I have on this one. Feel. So you get some decent furniture on this lower to start, including the adjustable X-Tech tactical grip. Just loosen the screw, get the angle where you want it, tighten it back down to suit your needs. Works for me, so I'm keeping it. It also came with an M4 stock, which I replaced almost immediately, with a Magpul SLK stock. I went with that one to reduce the rattle, look a little cooler, and adds a point for a QD if you have an M-LOK adapter. The Ambi mag release doesn't feel the absolute best, but it's worked well, it's solid, and the other controls are excellent. Form. At first blush, this lower really does look great. Sleek lines, minimal embellishment, just the way I like my gear. And the little grippies on the magwell are neat. The machining on this billet lower is excellent. The anodizing has a nice matte finish, and it's professionally assembled with a staked castle nut. The safety is pretty plain with some exposed fasteners, the trigger has a unique look, and like I mentioned before, the Ambi mag release has a slightly janky quality to it. I'm a big fan of Ambi everything on my guns, and this is the first time I had my doubts, but that's just kind of how it looks and feels. What matters is how it works. This lower runs. The only issues I had with this build as a whole were due to mixing parts from other manufacturers. The SLT1 trigger has a 4.5 pound trigger pull, super crisp break, and has had no problems igniting the primers for all the ammo I threw at it. Speed, reliability, accuracy, you get it all with this trigger. And as far as recoil, it's on par with most 5.56 ARs I've ran. For me, I'm a guy who's built every AR I own from the ground up, and going to a premium setup lower like this that I can just snap onto an upper is pretty cool. This lower is not inexpensive by any means, but this has for me the essential pieces of a modern AR right out of the box. The Ambi mag release allows you to perform changes the same way, whether you're shooting strong or support side, around obstacles. The trigger's incredible, takes Glock mags. This lower does it all, and it's very practical. And if you want to go a less expensive route, you can go with a stripped lower or one with a mil-spec trigger if you want to. All that being said, KAK Industries recently came out with a product I just had to experiment with on this lower. These are the recoil reducing K-Spec buffers. Fit. So these buffers come in two varieties, for your standard ARs and this version for pistol caliber carbines. They also come with flat wire recoil springs, more on those in a minute. By the way, no go on these in your KE Arms polymer lowers. All the sharp edges from the recoil spring as well as the buffer itself are going to chew up the ribs and ruin your lower. Feel. When you get the K-Spec buffer in hand, you can tell it's a pretty damn solid product. I'm always a bit leery of any product that advertises recoil reduction because that usually means it's gimmicked in such a way that isn't going to hold up over time. But you really can tell the spring they use in this thing is solid, and you're still getting the dead blow effect with the sliding weights in the rear. It's all the same mass as a 9mm buffer, but there's a sensible amount of secret sauce here. Like I said, you can tell at a glance that this buffer is really well put together. Both varieties have a nice finish and weight to them, and it's all part of a gun that you're never going to see outside of maintenance anyway, so no real complaints here. If you're experimenting with a few different weights though, you can easily tell by the bumpers which one is which. The PCC varieties weigh in from 5.5 to 9.6 ounces, and your standard AR weights cover your H1 and H3 buffers. Function. All sounds good on paper, right? New 9mm AR-15 recoil system, affordable price. Yeah, I've heard that one before too. But does it actually work? I'm pleased to report that the answer is actually yes, it does work, and here's why. You're still working with a heavy blowback action. You're still working with sliding buffer weights. The big key difference in this system is that your felt recoil is reduced by the stout recoil spring at the head of the buffer. Just a bit of dampening to soak up the impact while keeping the mass the same. Plus, the flat wire spring puts more load at the back of the buffer and makes sure your bolt reliably goes back into battery. Features. For those who don't know, recoil from a 9mm AR can feel just as heavy as a standard rifle, if not more. It's not a lot of recoil in an AR-15, but it's one of those things that's disappointing when you can try an AR-9. You want this smaller round to feel smaller, and upgrading to a captured spring, hydraulic buffer, your setup gets really finicky and expensive in a hurry. This system delivers the recoil reducing that I think a lot of people expect from an AR-9. Is it going to turn your hot rod 9mm into an MP5 in terms of recoil? Not really, but there's a noticeable difference in my opinion, and it makes this upgrade worth it. Now for the muzzle device I've chosen for this build, the Breek Arms BFO flash hider. I'm rocking the 9mm specific 1/2x28 threaded BFO to work with my Faxon barrel I'm running for this build. You can also get this one specifically for 5.56, 30 caliber, threaded 5/8x24. All varieties come with a crush washer that'll work with your standard armorer's wrench, so they're a cinch to install. And if you want the option, all of them work with the Breek Arms Castle Blast Shield, turning your flash hider into a linear compensator. Feel. No real surprises here. Like all of Breek's stuff, you're getting really nice machining work, solid finish, the whole nine. Whenever you're talking muzzle devices, you can expect a little bit of tolerance stacking issues, which I did feel out on the install. A little bit of grit work in the threads on a dry fit, but after that, it was buttery smooth, crush washer deformed easily, and it was ready to go. Function. For my part, this flash hider does exactly what it says on the tin. I've got it timed to a neutral position, and I have no issues with losing my target due to flash. You can attribute some of this to the ribs that are actually inside the flash hider itself, which breaks up some of the gas flow. And a few guys on the crew running the 5.56 version can attest, it works when you scale up the caliber too. Features. The nice thing about Breek's outside threaded muzzle device is that you can get a lot for your money without changing out a bunch of different components. For my part, I'm going to stick with the flash hider 99% of the time, but if you're shooting indoors, especially in a self-defense context, the ability to throw sound down range and potentially save your ears is a huge benefit. 9mm ARs are a lot of fun, and especially with global conflicts driving the price of 5.56 up, they're pretty economical.